I'm glad even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Our show is all about hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity. I have the pleasure today of interviewing the Emperor of Fun, Dave Raymond. He is the author of this book, The Power of Fun, and he is backstage. Let's bring him out. Dave, welcome to the program.
Hi, Jacalyn. It's great to be here. This is awesome. I didn't have to get in a car or a plane or anywhere, and here I am with you. That's what's awesome about what's going on today.
It really is. We can be together anywhere at any time, which is really nice. So I'm so glad to welcome you to the program. What you've done and what you've written about in your career really falls right in line with everything that the Dr. Jacalyn brand is about, and that is hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity. So I read your book. It was really phenomenal. I highly recommend it. And I'm just so thrilled to find out your story about being the Philly Phanatic for 16 years and how you've taken everything that you've learned and experienced, and you've really built it into a brand of the power of fun to help people and organizations, individuals, to really find the best side of life, the most positive experience. So congratulations on all of that, Dave.
Thank you. It certainly was not planned, unwittingly, unknowingly, but in the end, unapologetic for being blessed with an opportunity to really go out, and my prime directive was to have fun. So you might think that was a wonderful thing to hear, but at the time it was go have fun and do something that you've never done before that you think these tough baseball fans wouldn't accept. So there was a lot of fear in the beginning, but gosh, the amount of joy that I was forced to be involved in with my career, and then a career that was really directed to my most important goal was to make sure I was having fun. It's incredible what that experience has done for me. And I'm hoping for the people that I speak to and the people that read the book. I tell all of my friends, by the way, just take the book and put it in your bathroom. You'll be done with it in 2 days. It's an easy read. And then you will have such a great message that you weren't expecting.
Well, it is an easy read, but it's also very powerful and very impactful. And I could see you when you went to New York, I think it was, to get measured for the uniform, the Philly Phanatic costume. I could, envision you when you were trying it on, and then what it must have been like to be wearing that, and have people look at you, and it's just incredible. But you did have some adversity wearing the costume, and everybody wasn't so thrilled, specific band leader. So I definitely want to make sure we talk about that. But let's start off with your career and how you actually got the opportunity to be a Philly Phanatic.
It's so funny. Just before I came on, I watched Ethan Hawke's TEDx talk about giving yourself permission to be creative. And it was about him saying that part of being creative is playing the fool and not worrying about being embarrassed. That really resonated with me. I was an athlete my whole life. I grew up with a head football coach, a very successful head football coach for a father, Tubby Raymond. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. And I just wanted to grow up and be him. That's all I cared about. And, I saw the actors and the young people in high school that were in theater, and I felt like, hey, I really would like to do that. But, at that age, I'm like, oh, well, they're not my crowd. They're a little too wacky and weird for me. And it's probably one of the things that I regret the most. But I went through I wanted to be a football coach. I wanted to play football. I got a chance to play for my father, which was a wonderful experience. But it was him who said to me, I don't know if you're going to enjoy a football coaching the way I have, and you will not be able to stay at the same university for 50 years. He said, why don't I help you get a job with the Phillies? Because he knew the Carpenter family, the owners at the time. And his prophetic comment was, you'll never know who you'll meet or what might happen. And it was just 2 years after I got that summer job that I got the opportunity to be the original performer for the Philly Phanatic, when it was just, according to many people, was a bad idea on paper, because a green Muppet to be the Phillies and their fans, to be their mascot, didn't seem like it made sense. But that was the brilliant and fearless mind of Bill Giles, who was my boss. He was in charge of all of those crazy, wacky, value-added promotions that the Phillies did. And it just turned out to be a home run, pardon the pun.
And I think the thing that's so interesting, because you don't hear this that often in the corporate world, is go out and have fun. So I think that's what you're trying to instill in leaders today for their organizations. Is that correct?
There's no question. And the thing that I understand what leadership is challenged with is that the word fun can be frightening. And that's why I always talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. When we helped them create Gritty, they were fearless, just as Bill Giles and the Phillies were fearless in releasing a Muppet to be the Phillies mascot. Fun in the sense that we understand, Dr. Jacalyn, if I were to ask you, what do you do to have fun? Most of what's going to come to your mind and most of what you'll tell me is that I like to get together with friends. I like to have a party. It's what we do on vacation. We go down to the shore, and everybody understands fun in that context. And most of the time, it has nothing to do with business. In fact, those who are not enjoying their work can't wait to go have fun outside of the office. So what I'm trying to teach leadership is that the fun we're talking about is you take the word serious and you put it in front of fun, serious fun, and you start there and you take it out of the context of what I call the consensus and put it in the non-consensus realm, where the next question I ask to get them there is, how can fun save your life? That's a much harder question to answer. But once we start working on the answer to those questions, they start to apply it to how they're leading and to overcome the challenges their business is having. That's where the real powerful fun is developed, in the realm that's not expected, in the realm that is scary, in the realm that is not understood. And that's what makes leadership difficult for them to do it, because they don't want to hurt their people. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want their brand to be embarrassed. And just as Ethan Hawke said in his TED Talk, was part of the discovery is not to worry about that, is to be fearless and know that we're developing it for success and there's ROI behind it.
Absolutely. And the fun, F-U-N, each letter actually is an acronym for something else. Can you share more about that with us?
Yeah, and it's a very simple theory and in fact, a simple process. The biggest challenge is to overcome the fear. And the second is to change habits. So whether you're doing it for yourself personally or whether you're doing it for your business, we have all developed these habits that are wired so deeply into our brain. And in some cases, our brain wiring is a dinosaur brain. So you've got a lot of activity working against a very simple 3-step process. But F in fun stands for the force that fun is. I use the Jedi Knight Star Wars analogy, that it's right there, and the Jedis, it's there for anybody to take it. The Jedis in that franchise, they're the only ones that recognize it's there. So we have to recognize it's a very, very strong force. U in fun stands for universal. What I've proved to myself, and the data backs it up, is that fun is applicable and can be very powerful anywhere. So I performed at funerals successfully. I performed in front of very serious events where there were no children around as the Phanatic, and not only were we very successful, but we asked to come back again and again. And then the final letter in fun stands for the word no, because if we're going to take a very powerful force and we're just going to go, we're going to use it everywhere and anywhere, we better make sure our leaders, and if we are leaders, that we recognize it isn't putting a clown nose on, it isn't throwing a bull in a china shop. It is well planned out. It is practiced, rehearsed, developed, and new iterations are created as you go, so it will be appropriate. So force, it's universal, and there are people that are not going to be along with us until we show them that we're really working hard on that, and we're experts in delivering this type of fun.
I totally confer. Everything that you said is also in alignment with what I use for coaching when we're coaching people to get rid of ineffective patterns of behavior. And I wanted to share in your book, I thought it was so interesting. I never gave thought to the fact that the Philly Phanatic would be performing at a church service or at a funeral. And I remember reading what you had shared about your feelings when you had to go into that church. And when you think back to that, what was that like?
It was amazing. So it was a Catholic mass. It was at St. Charles de Borromeo in Cinnaminson. And it was the first time that I met a longtime friend and coach and just somebody that I adore is Father Jim Dever. He was a youth minister. I just finished doing this event that made sense, breakfast for families before mass. And he came running and said, don't take your costume off. I want you to sneak in behind me and the altar boys, because my homily is about the unexpected circumstances that life, well, he said curveballs. So he had a baseball thing going. Well, I thought, okay, it's all right with Father Dever. I'm assuming that's all right with the Lord. We can do this, because I'm in my head, I'm like, well, it worked at a funeral, but the Catholic mass and all the ceremony and I told him, I said, I'm not Catholic and I don't know the Fanatics denomination. Should we be doing this? He said, it'll be perfect. And I walked in and the response from 250 parishioners as I walked down the main aisle behind Father Dever and the altar boys was not positive. It was almost like a Dr. Seuss novel. Like, you don't belong here. No. I mean, and I could tell Father Dever was a little nervous because he hurried a little bit faster. But as he turned around to address the congregation, and I'm in character, so of course the Phanatic would run up, grab Father Dever, give him a big kiss, and then in the book I said I started running, and I was running because, like Frankenstein, the town folk would have the picks and the axes and the torches. They were coming to get the monster. But as I ran down and saw this abject horror, it changed the smiles into laughter. And as I'm running out of the chapel, I see Father Dever is smiling, laughing, applauding, and cheering. And the rest of the congregation was doing what I was convinced to do by Father Dever. Is that, look, it's all right with Father Dever. It's all right with the Lord. All right, go for that. In a Catholic mass, it not only did it work, but it did everything that Father Dever wanted it to do. It set the tone. His homily, unfortunately, I didn't get to hear it because I had to take a break. But the homily was very, very effective because of that surprise of fun, which is why surprise birthday parties are such a memorable moment. That it comes at a completely unexpected time. And that is a memory that you will always go back to and remember because of the surprise factor.
Yes. And just thinking about it and like when I read it, I had certain thoughts about it, and then hearing you describe it, it's just amazing. So we also have some Facebook user comments. Let's say, so important to talk about this topic, especially now. Well, thank you very much, Facebook user. That's definitely true. And aloha, Dr. Jacalyn. Well, aloha to you.
Does that mean that they're in Hawaii? Why are we not doing this there, Dr.?
I totally agree with you. Well, Dave, we have to take a short break and hear from our sponsors. So stay with us. We will be right back with the Emperor of Fun here on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our ministry alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone is an artisan jeweler who has been a permanent fixture on the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia since 1988. Starting her business in 1982, all of Margie's designs are individually handmade as well as custom design. She is one of the only jewelers left in the area who still crafts the finest tailor-made diamond jewelry, whether it's a statement piece or an everyday item. In addition to her one-of-a-kind designs, she specializes in pearl stringing and bead jewelry repairs. Margie Cedrone Jewelry pairs nearly 30 years of experience with the building of lifelong client relationships. Dr. Jacalyn has been a client and friend of Margie Cedrone for many, many years. Each week during my show, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, I will be featuring one of the beautiful pieces of jewelry that Margie custom made for me. I urge you to contact Margie through her website, margiecedronejewelry.com. Wait no longer to make your own bold statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hey,
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. My guest today is the original Philly Phanatic and the Emperor of Fun, Dave Raymond. Dave, welcome back to the program.
It is good. Well, I enjoyed that first segment. I'm looking forward to the next.
And we, of course, were talking about your book, The Power of Fun. And I love the fact that you have the magnet on here and you can take that off your business card and just wear it to remember to have fun, right?
Well, that means you're an official funster, Dr.
You're a funster. I am definitely a funster. I was thinking about when you said what it is people like to do to have fun. And I like to interview people. So I'm having a blast right now.
And exactly. And if it's, and, you know, we both could say we're blessed doing something that we love to do. And, you know, and it's experiencing, you know, who we are and what we love is a real great step towards joy and happiness. So I'm glad that you love what you do and you're good at it. And I appreciate being able to be a part of it too.
Well, I'm an official funster now, so thank you for that. So, Dave, I'd like to talk about you. You were the Philly Phanatic, and you've transitioned, and now you are a keynote speaker, and you're very much in demand. People want to hear what you have to say. So, what has that transition been like for you? And talk to us also about where becoming an author fit into that process.
Well, it's been a bumpy road, certainly since March 11th. I had probably about 7 speaking engagements that were set up and done that disappeared. But what we are doing is we're getting together and meeting with our clients and doing virtual keynotes and deliveries. But I'd always been speaking. Ironically, my father puts me on a path to become a mute character, one that couldn't talk. And I certainly have enjoyed communicating most of my life and was comfortable with it. So I was asked to speak a lot since my early days with the Phillies until now. But it wasn't until probably the last 4 or 5 years ago that I recognized I was not only having a blast doing this. It certainly no one can tell you that somebody that gives you applause or physically and audibly shows their appreciation for you. That's wonderful. That's part of what was beautiful about being the Phanatic. But when audience members would come up to me, like a young girl did probably about 10 years ago, before I had gotten into the world of keynote speaking, I was speaking to high schoolers from the Freedom Foundation that brought high school kids in from all around the country to learn about free enterprise here in Philadelphia. She walked up to me after the talk, and Dr. Jacalyn, it was like she was telling me a story about how she picked up a sandwich at Wawa or at a convenience store. And she said, I've been thinking about suicide as an option for me, but after hearing you today, I don't think I'm going to think much about that. And I had to stop my face from showing the shock that you could imagine is what I wanted to project non-verbally. But I held that back and I said, well, do me a favor. Would you? She said, sure. I said, why don't you, when you go home, where are you from? She said, I'm from Florida. And I said, when you get back home, think about a friend or a family member that you could tell them that as well. And she goes, okay, and turns around and walks away. And it was ever since then that I started realizing if I'm reaching out to audiences, and if it's just 1 or 2 people that it resonates with, like it did with this young lady, then it should be something, if I love doing it and I'm also doing that type of positive transformation, then I want to do it more regularly. And that led me into building a business model for keynote speaking. But it really is about me getting up on stage in front of either 12 leaders from, say, Uber Sooner to 2,000 folks from the Association for Internal Auditors or for the FBI in Philadelphia. So that's why I've done it. Now, it can be lucrative. It's a great business decision if you're talking about trying to drive revenue. But when COVID hit, it became a whole nother operation in learning how to connect people virtually, which I think that's going to always be with us. It'll be a good way for all of us to learn the right way to communicate. So whether it's lighting or sound, that we're all learning that now. But now clients need to figure that out, and that's just starting to happen. So like I said, we've been doing a lot of virtual speaking, but there's going to be a big springboard back because we need social connection like we do air and water as human beings. So somebody, I don't know, very early on, they reminded me, after the Spanish flu was the Roaring 20s. And that was a huge explosion of people needing to get out, to enjoy themselves and to connect with people again. And I think we're going to have that type of resurgence of and desire for us to connect face to face in person safely, but it's coming.
There's so much to tap into in what you just said. First of all, that story about the young woman, I just got chills when you shared that. And I've had a moment like that myself, publicly speaking about ulcerative colitis, and someone came up and said I gave her a reason to live. And when you have those moments, you realize that you need to keep going down this path, because if you can help one person. So Dave, what I'd like to ask you to comment about is, we are in a pandemic. There are people whose careers are gone or they're being changed. There's people who are in jobs they're not happy with. There are people thinking about going out on their own, but they've got a whole laundry list of reasons why. So when you think about fun and you think about everything that you've experienced, what could you share with them to help them take the first step to do something?
And we do know that I hate the phrase "we're all in this together," because technically we're not. We all this is affecting us all differently. There's some people that are making more revenue than they've ever made because they just happen, whether it's food distribution or something to do with with PPEs. It's so everyone we are in it together. We're all suffering from the similar thing, but we're different. So one of the most important steps in learning how fun can be effective in your life is to recognize that there are times when you are not only going to be sad, but you are going to be leveling over that edge of maybe falling off into hopelessness. What fun can do, what powerful fun can do, is keep you off of going down into hopelessness. Stay level and stay focused on getting yourselves up and out of it, and then thrive in the future. So what we need to do is actually, the counterintuitive part of this is to embrace the fact that we're dealing with this pandemic. I am not suggesting that the loss of life is something that we should celebrate. Certainly that is not the good part of this. But in terms of challenges, all of us, either we've lost a loved one or not, that we embrace the fact that we are now going to learn how to become resilient. And then resilience, just by definition, is overcoming challenges that are going to come at you again, which there will, and you can overcome them more quickly. That is the beautiful part of these challenges. Now, while you're doing that, you need to practice these intentional activities to keep your mood and to keep lifting yourself above that level where you could fall off into hopelessness. And that's the work, that's the effort, that's the habit changing piece that can be difficult. So here's some simple things. Don't say to somebody anymore, "How are you doing?" It lets them focus on the negative. You're going to get a lot of negativity back most of the time, especially when things are difficult. Instead, say, "Tell me something good." And then watch them get confused, because you're making their brain switch off the negative part of it and say, "I got to tell you something positive." Or just spending time recognizing what you're grateful for. Trying to be kind to somebody else, a neighbor, a friend, just to be kind to them. Getting as much sleep as you can, getting as much exercise, go out. One place we can be that, according to all the information, safely to be together is outside 6 feet away. So get outside, because that's healthy. So those are some of the simple things, but embracing the fact that we're going to deal with challenges is important, and understanding that it's going to keep coming. Life is up and down, and you're going to have to try to level that out as best you can. So that's what I'd say to most people, because I don't want people to be into helpless or hopelessness, because that's where the bad decisions, like that young high school girl was talking to me about. We don't want them to feel hopeless or helpless.
Very good points. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to go back to your book, and I believe you were traveling at an away game, and you went out on the field, and you were not very welcomed. So can you take us back to that specific game and share with our viewers and our listeners what exactly happened and what you did?
Well, because of the work I was doing on pregame in Philadelphia, that became well known around baseball. And so other promotional parts of baseball teams wanted to do new things. So in early part of my career, early 80s, the Los Angeles Dodgers actually asked the Phillies to bring the Phanatic out and do they said to have him entertain our fans the way he entertains your fans. And I was a kid and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to LA. And I got to fly in the team plane. I dressed in the locker room at Chavez Ravine with the Phillies. You know, these guys were still my heroes. I was still starstruck by being part of this team. And they were so excited. They threw me out of the top step of the dugout, you know, go get a Phanatic. And I'm so excited because I'm going to go, these fans have never seen me before. This is going to be so easy. I can use all my old material. And they just booed the heck out of me. And I went, oh yeah, I'm the Phanatic in Los Angeles. And I didn't think it was going to work. And I was about to leave the field. And then I saw a band come out to center field to start performing, a high school band. And I had been very successful doing that in Philadelphia. So I ran out to that situation, started to play around with them. They were responding. The boos stopped, some applause. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And I started moving closer to the band to interact with them the way I had learned how to do. And I feel this vice grip on the side of my arm yanking me off my feet almost. And it was the band director who had run all the way out on the field, screaming no, you know, the battle cry of the fun killer, which is part of the acronym. And he's saying, get off my field. You're ruining this. You don't know how hard my kids have practiced and you're ruining it. And I ripped my arm from his grip and I ran around away from him and he was chasing me. So at this point, the Muppet Show breaks out in the middle of the band show, and the fans were just going crazy. So I figured at that point, I got to get the heck off the field because I've gone from this horrible sound of disapproval to where now it's a raucous sound of approval. So I start running off where the band director had run on the field, and because he was on the other side of me at that point, and I got stopped by this horrific sight of two Los Angeles police officers running right at me. And I'm thinking, I'm getting thrown in an LA jail, you know, dressed like this. And the band director caught me because I was distracted and he's excited. He's yelling at the police officers to come get me. And much to my surprise, the police officers ran right past the Phanatic, grabbed the band director and dragged him right off the field. And the crowd went crazy. The band was getting a standing ovation. And you know, the lesson for me, and I actually went and met the band director afterwards to apologize. And the whole lesson was he didn't know I was a professional, right? He thought I was some crazy fan that had jumped out of the stands from Philadelphia that was going to wreck his band's performance. And he said, if it weren't for you, my band would never have got a standing ovation. So it was the fear again. It was fear. He wanted to protect his band, the kids in his band, the kids that had worked so hard. And as it turned out, they did everything that he taught them. Don't get distracted. The show must go on. Keep playing. And they did it with such great passion. And the Phanatic just had an overlay of some slapstick comedy that made everybody pay attention to the band. And when they were done, the whole crowd wanted to give them applause for not changing and doing what they were taught to do. So it's a beautiful illustration of the battle cry of the fun killer and the fear of fun. And I appreciate you letting me tell that story because it is probably one of the most memorable stories that I tell leadership when we're training, that you got to remember that you have all of that concern, but you do have experts that are doing this and you've got to trust them and you've got to let them do what they do well. And that's where the ROI comes afterwards, which was the standing ovation in this case.
Such a fabulous story. I'm wondering, your last day as the Philly Phanatic, what were your feelings?
Wow. Well, it wasn't technically my last day, but I was sitting in my house in Wilmington, Delaware with my now 31-year-old son. He turns 31 on the 6th of October. He was a little young kid watching the TV in his bedroom, and I was watching the TV in the living room when Joe Carter hit Mitch Williams' pitch over the outfield wall so that we lost the 1993 World Series. And that was officially the end of my career, if you will. And I felt wonderful because my son came in to the room and said, Dad, what happened? And I said, well, the Phillies lost. And he said, well, are we playing tomorrow? And I said, no, it's all over. He goes, okay, I'm going to bed. So it was like, I was always concerned about, well, what's my kid going to feel like when I'm no longer the Phanatic? He got to play on the field wiffle ball with Mike Schmidt. I mean, he knew all the players. And he didn't care. He just like, all right, whatever. You're still going to be my dad, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm all good. So I just was excited about becoming an entrepreneur and then being able to create a character that I could own and I could challenge myself to doing something within a skill set I thought I was good at. So I've never looked back. The only thing I miss, Dr. Jacalyn, is that wonderful joy and unconditional love that the Philadelphia Philly fans gave me when I was a Phanatic. But what's been wonderful is since then, I'm getting even more from it because they keep thanking me for being a part of bringing the character to life that brought their kids joy, that brought them joy when they were younger. And, it's been 43 years. So there's a lot of people I held in diapers that are now adults that are glad that I was there to entertain them and make them baseball fans.
Well, you are definitely a legend in Philadelphia for sure. So for people who want to get in touch with you, we are showing your contact information, but for our listeners on Business Talk Radio, how can they reach you?
It's really simple. DaveRaymondSpeaks.com. It's where you can see the types of offerings, both virtual and live, that we have. It is the only place that you can buy my book. That story about Amazon's for another time, but I would also tell everybody, when you're buying a book, go ahead and you can buy a book from Amazon, but try another opportunity to get a book somewhere else, because we don't want Amazon to get any bigger than they are. That's, again, that'll be for another interview, Dr. Jacalyn, but I found that to be a blessing. The books, I can autograph them, I can send out pins. So that's where you can get them. And I really love people. And then the free option is, everybody's got a book, everybody's got a newsletter, but we put out a newsletter once a month, the Power Fund newsletter, that is tricks and tips and life hacks about how you can engage and build long-term sustainable happiness. So that's totally for free. Come by, jump on the newsletter, sample a little bit, and then if you need me to speak to your groups, or if you need we do personal development training where it can be one-on-one or it can be group training sent by an employer send us their employees. But that all can be checked out there at DaveRaymondSpeaks.com, and I'd love that. Just have you check in and say hello and tell us how fun's work in your life. That's I love getting those responses as well.
Well, what you're doing is really fantastic. And as that Facebook user posted, we've never needed fun more than we need it now. And we need more funsters. So people should definitely reach out to you. Your website again is?
DaveRaymondSpeaks.com.
So any organizational leaders who are out there, any managers, any people who are looking to bring in a keynote speaker who really can turn things around and get your culture in alignment, bring your people together, and foster an environment where people are really wanting to help one another, please contact Dave Raymond. He is phenomenal. And his book, again, The Power of Fun, you can get it on his website. So Dave, thank you so much for being here today. We will definitely have you back. I hope you'll be willing to come and speak with us again.
I will. And I also want to tell your viewers what a wonderful job it is you're doing, because I've had a chance to get to know you a little bit before we actually met. And it's powerful stuff that you're doing. You're giving people an outlet, an opportunity to speak, and you're sharing great messages across all platforms. And it's really commendable. And thank you for doing the work that you do, because it is appreciated. Sometimes you don't hear that, but it's absolutely appreciated. And I want to make sure I had a chance to tell you that.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I really am doing what I feel like I love to do. And it only took me 57 years to get here. So for anybody out there who thinks they're stuck,
you're 20 years old. I mean, what?
It's the lighting. I just got
exactly, which is what we need to teach, right?
Exactly. Well, thank you, Dave. It's lovely seeing you, and we'll have you back on the program again.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thank you, everybody, for watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's been a pleasure having our guest today, the Emperor of Fun, and we will definitely have him back again. You can see our interview, if you want to share with others, on YouTube Live by subscribing to Dr. Jacalyn LLC, and Facebook Live, Dr. Jacalyn LLC. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor, please go to my website and contact me through Book a Session, also for life coaching. That's all we have for today. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week.